Hello, in this screencast we're going to look at AsyncTask, which is this mechanism that is available in Android to do background work using this AsyncTask that you extend, and it takes care of a lot of the signaling between the child thread and the main thread, the pre-configuration, the retrieval of the result of the background work, and so on, right? So that's called AsyncTask. So let's remove the example we had using handlers, okay, and try to do the AsyncTask. So let's look at what this AsyncTask looks like. So let's say we have to create a class, okay, which is, say, let's call it do work async, okay, and it extends AsyncTask, okay. And you could see here in the AsyncTask it has the parameterization of three types. There is the parameter types, which is the input parameter types, the progress types. So basically when they do in the background, or the work is done in the background, there is a progress that's being updated, and then the result, the end result of the working in the background, okay. So basically let's do this. So let's say for example, right, let's say the input parameters are going to be string, okay, and let's say the progress is going to be an integer, and let's say for example the output is going to be a double, for example, okay, for example. Now what we need to implement some kind of this extends an AsyncTask. There is a method that we have to implement, which is called the do in the background. So we go here, do in the background, and you can see that there is a method that is called do in the background. Just for you to understand, you can see here do in the background. This method actually works in the background, okay. It will operate in the background. It's going to work in the child thread, and you can see here it has a string type, and you can see this string type is actually the type that you indicated here. That's the input that comes into the do in the background. The do in the background returns something, which is double, right? And that double is the return value. Then there is an integer, which is progress. So let's say, where are these other methods? So there are other methods that you need to implement if you would like to. One of them is on pre-execute, which actually is something that executes before the do in the background is executed, on post-execute, and on progress update. So basically these are the three methods, and you can see, for example, the on post-execute is going to expect a double. That double is what do in the background returns. So whatever do in the background returns is going to arrive here in the post execute. Okay, we don't need these supers. Also this one also, and this one too. Okay, we don't need them. You can keep them if you want, but basically these are the pre-execute, the post-execute, and the on progress update. So basically you can see that the progress, for example, is going to receive an integer. The on post execute, you see it receives a double, which is actually being returned back from the do in the background. Okay, so let's look at this and see. Let's print some log messages and see. So it's something also to pay attention to are these three methods actually execute in the main thread, and this method will execute in the child thread. So let's try to figure out which thread are we running in. So I'll say thread. There's a way to do that. It's called thread dot current thread dot get id. That gets you the id of the current thread. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll say log.d and then say demo. I'll say this, okay, and I'll say, for example, on create, okay, oops, on create, and then thread id is this, okay. So basically I'm just going to print out the thread id here on pre-execute, on post-execute, on progress update, and do in the background. Okay, so this one is here, on post-execute, here it is here, on progress update is here, and then do in the background is here. So basically to trigger the on progress update, you need to trigger some progress. So there's something called progress, publish progress, and you pass it, say 100 for example, and in that case you're publishing some progress, and that would trigger this to run. Okay, so now let's run it. How do we run it? We'll say new do work async dot execute, and you see it's expecting a string. These are the string parameters that are going to be passed to the do in the background. Let's say we say Bob, for example. So this is going to be passed on to the do in the background here in one of the strings, and you see these three dots. These three dots means that it is an array. The params is an array. So basically what you could do is you could say, I can go here and I could say do in the background, and you could say params is, and then I can just print the params. Okay, and you can see that it's going to print as Bob, right? You can actually pass other parameters too. You could say Alice. They all are passed in an array, in the string array that is passed on to the do in the background. And then actually, let's say this guy returns, let's say it returns 333.333, right? So that's the double that it returns, right? Now when you are in the onPost execute, you will see that inside the onPost execute, and the a double is, and then we can print out this a double to show you that the value that's being returned by the do in the background will actually go into the onPost execute. Okay, so let's run this. Oh, so this creates it and executes it. Okay, so this line will create the do in the background and it will execute it. So let's go here. So it did run. Now we go to the Android monitor and look. So basically the onCreate, the thread ID is 1. The onPost execute, the thread ID is 1. The do in the background, it's okay. Let's ignore this line for the time being. We probably have to print the string array in a different way. But you could see here that there is the thread ID of the do in the background is 359, which is not 1, which is not the main thread. 1 is the main thread, and you can see the on progress update, the thread ID is 1, and the on post execute, the thread ID is 1, and you can see the on post execute, the a double is going to be 3.33. So just to give you an idea what is happening here, right? So let's try to fix this issue with the string. We can just print that string. So basically what we can do is we can just loop over that progress that do in the background, just to show it's an array for each, right? For each string var in params, and I can print it in params. We can just print it as here. We can copy it from here. Okay, cool. So now we run it again. Here is the Android monitor. Here it is. Param is Bob, param is Alice. So basically it's an array, and you can see that it's printing them. But just pay attention that do in the background is actually running in the background thread. You see it's not in the main thread. Everything else runs in the main thread. Okay, cool. So you get an idea of what is happening here. And you get an idea also to publish progress. You see publish progress, you send it to 100. So for example, I can print the progress that is being passed on publish progress. I can print the progress that is here too. So I can come here and say, then publish progress. And I can say progress is, and you can, whatever progress is being passed, but it's values, right? So you can publish multiple values. So basically I'm just interested in the one that's being sent, which is 0, right? I'm just sending 1, right? I'm only sending 1 here. So that's why I could say values of 0. Okay, so when you go back, it ran already. Go to the Android monitor, and you could say the progress is 0. Make sense? Perfect. So now, based on this, let's implement the same example that we had for the progress dialog that shows up and the counting that happens, the do work. Let's do the same thing which we used we used the handler for, just to implement it using the AsyncTask. So basically, we know that, let's say we know that this is the work that we're going to do. Okay, so then this is the do in the background work that we are going to do. Okay, which is this looping stuff, right? Okay, cool. Let's say instead of passing, okay, we'll pass the double, but let's say we have a double. Let's say we do a double, and let's say we will create an average. Okay, just an average, and we will calculate the average of a couple of numbers, right? So every time we create a random, okay, so it's a rand equal new random, right? I'll just create that, and then here I'll just create, every time I will create a new random number. Okay, and I'll just from, let's say, rand dot next double or something, or let's say next yeah, let's do a next double. Okay, plus, so let's say average equal to next double plus average, right? So basically we're just going to create these averages, right? Okay, cool. So basically we will create some numbers, we'll add them together, right? And then we'll create the average of these numbers, right? And we'll see what the average comes up as. Cool. So these are the random numbers. We'll just create these, and then maybe we can have a counter just so that we can have int cnt equals, or maybe we call it double, just to do a double division at the end, count equal to 0. And then every time we create a new number, we'll say count plus plus, just to increment the counter. Okay, and then at the end we will return count average divided by count, okay, which is the average actually. So basically this, we can call this the sum. If we refactor rename, okay, we'll call this the sum. Okay, cool. So that's basically what we're going to return. And then let's do the progress, right? So we are here, we are gonna update our progress every let's say we will update our progress, we will publish progress, and we will publish progress, which is our I, right? That's our progress. Okay, and then at the end we were going to return the sum somewhere, right? That's this. Now what we can do is, whenever we publish the progress, let's say on pre-execute, what we are going to do is we are going to do something like this. Okay, we can create the progress dialog, and then we can also show it. Okay, we can show the progress dialog. That's on the pre-execute. On the post-execute, we are gonna get the double, so we could just print the double that we got, and then we could say progress dialog dot dismiss. We can dismiss it here. And then the update, we are gonna receive this integer value as the update, and we could say progress dialog dot set progress, and we could say values of 0. Okay, so that's what we are doing here. Okay, we're publishing and so on. Now as for so basically we are having the integer as the progress, the double for this, and obviously the string here doesn't make any sense, right? So basically what we could do is we can make it also an integer, and that tells us how far an integer, but you see it's not going to be happy because you have to make this one also an integer, right? And maybe we can pass that integer as how much is this, right? How much is the inner loop? We could say params of 0, which is the one that we're going to pass, and then when we are going to execute, we pass it 1000, and that would enable us to control how much work we are going to do inside. Okay, cool. So that's basically the async task, right? And you have seen, this would show you how the progress dialog is going to be created on the pre-execute, and on post-execute we will dismiss, but we're also going to print out the double. And then the on progress update actually updates the progress, also updates the progress of the dialog, and then do in the background just publish it, and then at the end it will print out the average. So we go here, and here it is, but it is not moving. So why it's not moving? So it seems, let's see, it is not moving. It is, but it's moving really slow. So maybe we need to slow it a little bit. So basically, let's say instead of these, we'll make it a little bit faster. 1 0. Run it again. Okay, it's a little bit faster now, right? You can see here. Okay, but it's the same story. Let's make it a little bit faster. So let's slow it here. I just removed one more 0. All right, here we go, and it will stop. Boom. Okay, excellent. So this works, right? Now, and you can see that publish progress, and you are publishing I. Actually, if you make it I+1, it will end up at 100, right? So it will start with from 99, it will end up at 100, just for the sake of experimentation here. But you get an idea of this this async task. It's pretty straightforward, right? And here we go, right? Also, something to pay attention to is that the call, when you do publish progress, actually publish progress takes this number, puts it in a queue, and then that queue is being fetched by a handler that actually calls on post update with the value that was deposited in the message. So basically this is done through messaging, by the way. It doesn't call directly this method, because this runs in the background. This method runs in the background, and then these methods actually run in the main thread. I want to see what is the onPost execute. You see the onPost execute returns double, which is 0.5, and that's actually the average. Basically, if you look at the random class, we are using the next double, and you can see that next double returns a uniformly distributed number from 0 to 1. Okay, so this means that the average is supposed to be close to 0.5, which is true here. Okay, sounds good. So please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.